the most sought after tasks in Photoshop is photo retouching, and luckily Photoshop has many tools to help you not only edit your photos but retouch your photos. And in this video we're going to be discussing a few of the photo retouching tools that Adobe has provided for us in Adobe Photoshop CS4. The majority of the tools can be found right over here. We have the Spot Healing Brush tool, the Healing Brush tool, the Patch tool, and the Red Eye Removal tool. We also have down here the Clone Stamp tool, and I'm going to be discussing all of these tools in this tutorial. We're going to start with the Clone Stamp tool because that seems to be the most common retouching tool out there. This is how the Clone Stamp tool works. In this photo we clearly have our model with a few pimples on her face. We want to easily get rid of them by sampling an area that is clean and then applying that area on top of the areas with pimples. This is how we're going to do it. At the top, we're going to start by selecting our brush size. I'm going to keep it at a nice soft 50% brush, and then these settings will be the same. This is what we need to do. We're going to zoom into the area here, and if you're on a Mac, you're going to hold down Option, and if you're on a PC, you're going to hold down your Alt key. What that does is you're telling Photoshop where to sample. And remember, you want to sample a clean area. So we're going to sample right in this area here by just holding down Alt or Option and then clicking your mouse. Now in Photoshop CS4, as you hover over an area that is blemished, you'll see a preview of what it will look like. And all you have to do is click, and it will apply it to that area. Now it's not perfect. You can see a little bit of the edges around it. And in that case, you'll probably want to increase or decrease the hardness or increase the softness. And apply it one more time. Click, and there you go. And the blemish is gone. You can go ahead and do it to any part of your image, but you have to remember to always resample. So again, hold down Alt or Option, click, and then click on the area with the blemish. Now this tool is pretty good, but in Photoshop CS4 and the newer versions of Photoshop, there are much better tools. So if we head over to our tools palette once again, we have our Spot Healing Brush tool. Now this is basically the Clone Stamp tool without the sampling. This is how this works. I'm going to increase my brush size just a little bit. Let's say to 30% or pixels. And all we have to do now is hover over a blemish area. So I'm going to hover over this pimple right here and then click my mouse. That's all, and magically it disappears. What it does is when you click your mouse over top of the blemish, it samples everything around it and applies it on top of the area you clicked. It's actually quite brilliant. So if we go ahead and do another example, click, click, click. It's brilliant and super simple. The next tool is the Healing Brush tool. The Healing Brush tool is kind of like the Clone Stamp tool on steroids. I'm not sure why they didn't just replace the Clone Stamp tool because it's basically the Clone Stamp tool but a lot more accurate. So once again we're going to hold down Alt or Option to sample an area and simply brush over top of our blemishes. It will sample the area around the area that we brushed as well as the area that we sampled and apply it on top of the area that we brushed. That sounds incredibly confusing, but that's the way it works, and it works pretty well. The next tool we're going to take a look at is the Patch tool. Now this tool is a little bit different than the Spot Healing Brush tool, the Healing Brush tool, and the Clone Stamp tool. This Patch tool uses selection methods to define our selection, and then we drag it on top of a clean area to apply the touch-up. Now you can use any selection method that you like to define your selection. It's completely up to you, whether it's the marquee tools, the lasso tools, the pen tools, completely up to you as long as you have a selection method. But for this example, I'm going to be using the selection that the Patch tool gives me, and very simply all we have to do is drag an area around, or draw an area around our blemish, the area that we want to get rid of, just like that. And once the selection is made, all we have to do is click inside and drag it to a clean area, preferably an area close to the area of the blemish so that the tones match a little bit. And once we're around here, I'm going to let go, and it's going to sample that area and apply it on top of our selection. And as you can see, it's a seamless retouch. It's a great tool for bigger selections. But you will have to note that there are some cases where if you are on a border area, as you can see here, there's a big tone difference from the face and the hair. So if we go ahead and select this blemish here and try and apply it here, we may get some of the hair area, the color of the hair, interfering. So in that case, you'll probably want to go with the Spot Healing Brush tool or another tool just like that. But the Patch tool works great. So once again, I'm going to show you one more example right in this area here. Very simply use my mouse to drag out an area and drag on top of a clean area, and there we have it. Very effective and very easy. Now the last tool we're going to look and touch upon is the red eye removal tool. Now this tool is quite something. And just like the other healing tools, it's super simple to use. I'm sure a lot of you have taken pictures where the person's eyes look possessed, they look red. Well, to remove them in Photoshop cannot be any easier. All you have to do is select the red eye removal tool like we've done already, and click inside the red area. And that's it. It will sample all the red area in the eye and apply a nice dark pupil to it. And just the same like we did, click, and there we go. Now at the top, we can choose the pupil size and the darken amount. So if you want very dark pupils, increase it to 100%. And there you go, we have very dark pupils. If you want very light pupils, decrease it just a little bit. Just like that. So this tool is super simple to use, it can't get any easier, and it's very, very effective at removing red eye in your photos. So that's pretty much about it for the healing tools in Photoshop. Adobe has included some great tools to help you retouch your photos in Photoshop. Check them out, get some pictures of your own, and stay tuned for the next tutorial.
Alright, now we're going to be talking about how to change someone's hair color in a photo. The one thing you do need to keep in mind is that subtlety is your friend. You don't want it to seem like someone's hair color is orange or yellow. You want it to seem like they dyed it blonde, you know. So subtlety is your friend here. Just keep that in mind. You don't want to go too overboard. Always take a step back if you're zoomed in a bit too much. Step back, zoom out. See if it seems natural. That's the key thing, and you'll be able to observe that. Just turn things on and off. Well, I'll show you. Okay, first thing we need to do here is we want to dye her hair to something other than the brown that she has right now. So I'm going to zoom in here a bit, and we're going to bring up the layers palette and just create a new layer. And we want to fill this layer with 50% gray, so something that is exactly between black and white. So we want to do this on the brightness here. B stands for brightness. 50% is exactly the halfway point between pure white, pure black. We'll do this right now, and to fill it in, we're going to use a quick shortcut here. Alt backspace fills the complete screen with or the photo itself with the 50% gray. Yeah, our photo has disappeared, but we'll bring it back. Stay with me here. We're going to set this mode to soft light. And the reason we did this is sort of like a preparation layer. We're just going to use this layer to mask out the hair. So we need this 50% because what happens is if we just paint this layer with black, then we'll see that we're making the photo darker. And if we paint it with white, we're making the photo lighter. So that's what soft light does, and at 50% it's not affecting anything right now. It's just a base layer. So right now we just need to try to get the hair, extract that, if you will. So we're going to enter the quick mask tool. Make sure you're at opacity 100%. Probably zoom in a bit more, and what we want to do is select the hair. Now this is going to be the step that's going to take the longest amount of time to do, and probably the boringest as well, but it's something that can't be skipped basically. So we want to spend some time here and try to select the hair as close to perfect as you want this to be, really. I mean, this is not the only time you're going to have the only opportunity to select the hair. You're going to always be able to change this, but this is sort of like this is the first step, and you want to get something that is pretty darn good. You don't want to spend too much time doing this, but you don't want to be too sloppy about it. So if you make a mistake, as always, click on X. It'll switch your color to white, and white removes the layer mask. So that's a quick shortcut here to fix your mistakes, and obviously everyone makes them. Doing these masks, you just want to quickly do this and then go back out and correct with white. So just keep your hand on the X button. You'll be doing that a lot. Now keep in mind here that you do want to select the strands of hair. You don't want to be spending too much time selecting individual strands of hair, not too much of it anyways, but you do want to be as precise as you can afford to be, and generally try to select a few strands, at least, because you're gonna have that regardless for it to look normal. And then with the white, we want to not try to overdo it here, so that it seems like other things besides the hair is being dyed. So, just something to keep in mind. We'll probably want to fill this all in here, actually. If we don't, then, like I said, we can always go back in and change this later. So, just to make sure that we got more hair here. Make sure that we have, I'd say like an 80% correct thing. You know, don't go overboard, but make sure you get most of it. It'll make your life easier later on. Okay, that's looking pretty good, pretty decent, and I think we'll just leave it at that for now. So we're going to exit the quick mask and go to select and inverse, and then add a mask. So we've got the hair selected. Let me take out the layers palette here. So we pretty much have the hair. Obviously there's a little bit of mistakes here, but if you want to correct that right now, you can. Just make a bigger brush, and we can see all the little gaps. It's not that essential. I doubt if you're actually going to really notice it at the end, but if you want to be precise about it, there you have it. Okay, so now let's turn everything on again here. And so basically we were able to just select the hair, and that's all we have. So now we're going to select the hair. So let me just name this hair first of all here, just in the name of being organized. And then I'm going to do hue saturation, which is what we use to dye the hair. I'm just going to click OK without doing anything, because the first thing I want to do is create a clipping path. Mask. Create clipping mask. Right click on the hue saturation layer, and then select create clipping mask. And what you see is a little arrow, and now the name of the layer below it, hair, is underlined. What this means is that these two are sort of just linked, and any changes that I'm going to be making to hue and saturation will only be applying to the hair layer and nothing else. So I'll just actually name this layer here color. So we have the color of the hair and the hair selected. If we need to change later on our selection of the hair, include more or less of the hair, that's where we do it. If we want to change the color of the hair, that's where we do it. So let's change the color of the hair. First thing we want to do, move this up here, is tick on colorize. And already you can see that we're already coloring her hair a nice red. You do want to play around with saturation. If you set the saturation to 0, you're going to go back to exactly as the photo was before, and then you can see that you're bringing in a bit too much saturation. You usually don't want to be going above 25%. Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. It depends on the photo itself and so forth. Moving the hue, shifting the slider, we can make her hair look, well, pretty much any color in the rainbow. And I think redhead actually works on her pretty well. It's looking pretty good, actually. If I want to modify the hair, I'll just go here and add more red to her forehead. Not exactly what I wanted to do. There you go. We got a bit too much on the ear here. And then if you want to make this even more gradual, yeah, because I think once you start getting to these bits here, it starts looking a bit too red. Just change the opacity. Just remember that 20%. Remember that on white, you're bringing in the red, and on black you're removing it, or whatever color it is that you're setting. But the hair coloring is being added, so you can just try to gradually remove and take away things, and add them back in, so that you see sort of like a slight transition. And there isn't any red, sort of like where her scalp is showing through, and it's basically just her forehead. She didn't have a dyed forehead. I don't believe people get that when they spend a lot of money on their hairdressers. So there we are. We just want to remove a bit. Just keep on clicking away and just removing a bit of that red from the general overall areas here. And on her shirt as well, probably just want to up the opacity here, just make it a bit quicker. Her shirt isn't supposed to be red, or have a cast that's red, so Let's remove that. That's looking pretty decent right now. How does the other side look here? Okay. Bit of red cast. Just remove that. Alright, looking pretty decent. If we take away the hair color, it's subtle, but you can see that she definitely has had her hair dyed a bit. You can up the saturation a little bit. Make it really obvious if you like. I personally think that's a bit too much, but probably strong red, strong dyed red. That's probably it. So there you go. We've dyed her hair. Okay, now we're going to be learning how to remove a double chin, or as it's more affectionately known, a chin chin. So let's have a look here. Okay, lovely photo, mother with her daughter, but yeah, a bit of the old chin chin here. What we could do is, first of all, is always duplicate your layers, so you have you can afford yourself the before and after, and if you make any mistakes, you can always delete them, go back, and so forth. So much more flexibility when you duplicate what you're doing. Always leave the original behind. There we go. So, two tools for the job. Clone stamp tool, and what this would do in this case is we could clone a bit of the clothing here and get that into in the chin, and get rid of the double chin that way. But a much better tool for this particular photo. In some cases, the clone stamp tool will actually work out pretty good, but there's a much better one for this job, which is the liquefy filter. So let's zoom in here and see what we could do. Now, using the default tool, the first one here, the forward warp tool, make sure that you have a brush size that is big enough so that when you're moving the chin, you're not having to move it too many times. If you use a pretty small brush, you're not going to be affecting too many areas, obviously, but you're going to be moving these things a lot, and it's going to be hard to try to make a nice curved line, and just, you don't want something too big because you're going to start moving everything else along with it. So you just want to strike a balance somewhere along. Probably here is good. Make sure that you have a low density and pressure, somewhere in the 30s, I suppose, at least for this photo. You don't want things to be moving too quickly, right? If you have these things high enough, any sort of move you're going to do, and the chin is going to be up here. So small density, and what you're doing is just gradually moving things up. Now, what I like to do is not just focus on one area here and just move that up. What I like to do is just work on the whole thing, on all of the chin, and try to get it to an acceptable curved non-chin chin version of herself. But just work on the whole thing, not just one bit at a time, but all of it at once. And you're just moving that up. Obviously, there are other areas to correct, but as long as you're not messing up all these other areas too much right now, then it's looking good. You just focus on the first task here, which is just to move the chin. You can move the chin down as well, not just up. Bit of mixture. You'll find that works pretty good. And a nice sort of curvy jawline, if you will. Always good to zoom out and see what it is that you're doing, because sometimes close up you can't really tell too well whether or not you've finished or not. And this is looking alright. So let's take a bit off here. Okay, that looks good. Now let's move in the neck here a bit. Now once you start getting to these areas here, it's usually a good idea to just zoom in more and actually just use a smaller brush so that you're not affecting too many other things like the chin here. And you just want to make that neck sort of just tuck it in a bit. Always use your bracket keys on your keyboard to make your brush smaller or bigger. It's a very quick way to make modifications as you need to without having to resort to changing brush size here and so forth. So it's a good tip. Okay, zoom out, see where you're at. Okay, a bit more work here. Now, there's another tool that we're going to use, which is the healing brush tool, to actually remove some of these other folds and so forth. Right now, we just want to sort of just do the cosmetic surgery, just the jaw lines and just essentially the outlines of things first. We're going to be removing, some other little details with the other brush tool. So I think that looks pretty decent. So let's go. Okay. Best way to check whether or not you did a pretty good job actually is just to make this invisible and look at your original image, and then look at the one you're working on now, and see if that's an improvement. And overall, I think it is. So let's keep on going. Now we're going to be using the healing brush tool. What I like doing with the healing brush tool is that it's sometimes, especially when there's a skin here, and then there's the clothing here, and you have some different areas of light and skin tone and dark skin tone and so forth. So what I like doing is just creating another layer, and we'll just call this healing, for example, and we'll call this no chin chin. And on this healing layer here, go ahead and select the healing brush tool and make sure that you're sampling all layers, or just the current and below layer, actually, just to be sure that we're just sampling this one, but it will be this case anyways. And what we want to do here is just zoom in a bit and just start cloning away a bit of the folds. Now, if you make a mistake, like obviously here it got too close to the clothing and made this dark, just obviously you could undo, or you could just remove that. And that's the advantage of using this a separate healing layer, is that you're not making any changes to the layer below it. So it's not really a problem if you find out later on that you've made a bit of a mistake, and you don't have to redo everything over again. Okay, and it's usually a good idea not to mess around with this stuff too much. And we can turn on our healing layer on and off and see what it is that we've done. We've applied this a bit too much here. Let's actually just redo this area here, because what we just really need is just that little bit of a curve there. And we're probably going to use the clone tool, actually. Very small clone tool. Just get as close as we can, probably on this side. Clone all layers, and just repair that a little bit. Okay, so there we have it. Shift the color and change from blue to green or brown or whatever color you'd like. We're going to be looking at this photo over here. This little boy has lovely brown eyes. So the first thing we want to do here is select the eyes to change. So I'm going to be using this tool here that's called the Quick Selection tool. It's a new tool in Photoshop CS3. And all we need to do here is, I already checked Auto Enhance and made a brush size of 10. And what that does is, when I draw on the eyes, it automatically sort of just selects the eyes, and then it works on it, and it tries to just make a better selection of the eyes automatically with the Auto Enhance. And we're going to go over here and just draw a little bit. Okay. Now we see on this one here, it just selected a little bit. Too much of the eyes, because it couldn't really see the distinction between the light levels here. So we're just going to manually, just with the with the lasso tool, we're going to be changing that. We're going to be control selecting to remove a selection to make it smaller. You can see the little minus symbol on the icon there. There we go. Now what we want to do is, I like to be working on things where if I want to change my mind, I can go back in later and change them. So what I like to do is just to press Control and J. And what it does, if we look at the layers palette here, is that it just makes a copy of the eyes into a separate layer. So we can mess around with this layer as much as we like, and we never really touch on the original color of the eyes. So we're going to be changing the eye color. So the first thing we want to be doing is going to hue and saturation. Now, what we want to do here is, first of all, what I like to do is to do a Control G, which creates a group. We're going to just name this eyes here, and eye coloring. Okay, and what this does is if we change this from pass-through to normal, then what it means is that any filters that are applied to this, any of these effects, hue, saturation, and so forth, they're only going to really be applying to the eyes, which is what I want to do. I don't want to apply anything else, outside of the photo. So that's a good way to start. So we're going to go direct into hue and saturation here, and we're just going to play around with the hue. And as you can see, the eye color is changing very subtly, and we want to probably, let's try to make this, since the overall color of the photo has like this blue theme, we want to try to find like a blue area to work with here. Okay, we're going to leave it at that. Now if you have really black eyes on your photo, right, you're not going to be able to change the hue because black doesn't change hues, yeah, it's just black no matter what the hue is. So what you really want to be doing is go to colorize, which then applies a layer of color into, whatever, even on black, essentially. And then what you want to do is just, change the eye color that way. That's, it's whichever way really works for you. And then you can also change the saturation down a little bit if you like. All right. Now that looks all right, but I still think that his eyes look a bit too dark. So what I want to do is go to, what do we want to do here? Brightness and contrast. And in brightness and contrast, we can just make his eyes a little bit brighter. Now it's starting to make the edges over here a bit too light. So what I want to do is just add a bit more contrast here. And break down the saturation, just play with it a little bit. And you can see it, you take out the preview and you put it on. And it just adds a little bit more of the sparkle here. And if we zoom out, there we go. We got lovely blue eyes on the kid, from brown to blue, lovely and sparkly, and that's how to change someone's eye color. Pretty pale boy here that could do with some tanning. So the first thing we need to do is open up the layers palette, create a new layer, and we're going to select. I already have this selected, but we want to pick a nice sort of a tan color. This doesn't have to be the exact tan color you want to end up with. You just want to select a color that is somewhere in the looking tan brown region of things. So that's good enough. So we want to fill that layer. Because the layer here, our color here is on the foreground, we just quick shortcut to fill the whole layer in is Alt Backspace, and we're filling it in with that tan color. Now we're just going to make that invisible for now. And the next step, we're going to go back to original photo here, and with the magnetic lasso tool, we're going to just select the boy. So we're just going to roughly, as close as we can get it, trying to select the boy. If we select too much, that's not a problem. Selecting too little is a bit of a problem. We can always go back and reselect these things, but we want to try to get this selecting his skin, basically. Anything that you want to tan. We're missing the ears there, not a problem really. We want to just speed up the process, really. This is just a quick way to select the majority of the boy. We can go back in and edit the selection actually right now. Okay, so we have a rough selection of things. We want to go to quick mask mode, but we want to double click first, and we want to make sure that we're on selected areas. Usually the default is on masked areas, and what that does is it selects everything but the boy. Double click on that, selected areas. There we go. That's our selection of the boy. Now we just want to make sure that, so anything in red is what we're going to be tanning. So we want to just add the bits that are missing there. We want to use a brush tool, zoom in, and with a small brush, fill that in with red and remove anything we don't want. It is better to select more than to select less. So if you're gonna select, if you're gonna err to one side, select a bit more of the boy, and a bit of the C with it, then not leave anything out. You really don't want to leave anything out. That's the crucial thing, is all the skin needs to be there. So just make sure you select the skin. That's your number one priority. Obviously, if you have too much, like over here, that's not part of the skin, then obviously remove it, but erring on one side, error on the side of getting too much. And we don't want to get any of the hair, unless you want to tan the hair. This is essentially just what we want to tan, so make sure you select wisely, depending on your photo. Alright, there we are. Oh, the feet as well. A bit of... Okay, so there we are. We've got the boy selected. Now what we want to do is exit that quick mask. We have the boy selection here. I'm going to turn on our tan layer, and we're just going to add a quick mask. And so what we've done is we've just masked, and we can even see where I missed a bit of the elbow here. But that's the good thing about masks, is that you can always go back and edit these things. So let's just correct that right now. If you spot any other mistakes, this is your chance here. It's always very flexible. It's not always, you have to get the thing right on the first shot. Okay, so we've got this mud on the boy. And what we want to do is just select the color overlay. Alright, so this is a bit too much, but we're getting close to tanning him. What we're going to do is just change the opacity here to something that's a bit more acceptable. Starting to tan him. What you want to pay attention here is that obviously there are going to be some parts that look a bit too tan and others that look less. Obviously his belly is going to be a lot more pale than the rest of his body. So what you want to do is just try to aim for the least tanned areas. First of all, ignoring all the face and the forearms there. So we want to just get to a point where the belly looks sufficiently tanned at the moment anyways, and I'd say probably around there. Now what we want to do is just essentially just remove the tanning that we've added to the arms into the face. We want to remove that by, let me just double check here which color is which. Okay, so black is removing. I always forget which one is which, but black removes the tan. So just remember that. Stay on black and change your opacity to something like 17-20%. There we go. And now, because you don't want something too drastic, and now you just want to just keep on clicking and removing that tan, the excess tan anyways, to a point where it's all sort of a bit even. You can turn it on and off and see what's being applied, and also Alt and click, and you can see the modifications that you're doing there. So you can see if you're missing any areas in the arm and so forth. And in the face, Alt click again to get out of that. And just get it to the point where you think you haven't applied too much tan. You're not over tanning anything right now, you're just adding stuff. And that looks good. Okay. The next step, and this is an optional step, if you think this is enough, then it depends on your photo. This usually is enough. But in this case, he's so pale, we probably want to make him a bit darker as well, not just browner, yeah? So we want to go ahead and go to Hue and Saturation. I'm just going to, first of all, just click OK, because I want this to apply only to this layer here, to our tan layer. So on the hue saturation layer, we want to apply it just to the tan, so we're going to create a clipping mask. There we go. We know we got a clipping mask when we have the arrow and the affected layer underlined there. We're going to go into hue and saturation, and now we're just going to move the lightness slider a little bit, and we can turn on the preview and turn it off and see what we're doing here. But essentially what we're doing is we're just making him darker, having a darker tan. Probably reduce a bit of the saturation here. So he's not too brown, he's just darker. There we go. So we're starting to tan him a bit more instead of just being brown. And if you have any problems with the color that you're applying right now, if you think it's swinging one way or another, it's a very slight movement. It's usually just going to be about 10 or maybe 15 to either side. But note that you're going to be making him greener on one side and redder on the other. I think we've got a good balance here for him. We just want to really focus on how dark we want to make him tanned. And now we can see what the that tanning effect did. And if we turn it all off, there he is originally, pretty pale, and there he is now. And then you just want to really gauge and see if you've overdone the tanning. I think we've gone overboard just a tad. It's good to be more subtle to these things than to overdo them. So we can just change the opacity on these a bit and see where we're at. There we go. I think that's pretty decent. That's pale boy. That's not so pale boy. You know, he's obviously been in the sun. And there you go. How to give people an instant tan. Alright, now this one is really funny, okay? How to make people and pets look funny. This one is pretty easy. It's pretty easy to do. You can go overboard, but that's not a problem. It really makes it funny. So it's just up to how mean do you want to be to the person, really. Let's have a look here. Nothing wrong with this photo. Lovely photo. Girl with her dog. And now we're just going to mess it up. First thing you want to do, as always, is just duplicate your layer so that you're working on a duplicate copy so that you can see the mess you've done and undo some bits if you want to. So the greatest thing to play around with is liquify. There are many things you can play around in Photoshop. Liquify is the one that's going to be the most fun to play around with. So let's zoom in here and see what it is we want to do. Okay, first of all, let's play with the dog. Now, one of the easiest ways to make things look funny, and make sure to have a small brush density, not too small, but a small one, otherwise things get out of hand real quickly, is just this, the bloat tool here. We can make eyes bigger. Make sure to click on the center. There we go. Nostrils, not a problem. Click on each one of the nostrils. Keep on clicking. There you go. Big nostrils right there. And then with the forward warp tool, we can then do a bit of plastic surgery and extend that nose a bit, and make it a bit more pig-like. Always clicking on the center of what it is you want to change here. Okay. Alright, now let's have a look at her. Now with humans it's pretty funny because we're so used to looking at faces that we can tell when anything's been changed, but we can pretty much do a caricature of a person with this. First of all, let's make her eyes bigger again, just like the dog. And nostrils as well, why not? Okay. And bigger chin, why not? There we go. And now with forward warp tool, let's extend her hair. So let's extend everything. Probably increase the pressure just a bit more. Make this a bit quicker. A bit sloppier as well, but a bit quicker. And give her a big forehead. Increase the pressure here. And you can do a bit of plastic surgery here and give her the old square forehead treatment. How about that? It's really anything that, tickles your fancy, really. Increase the cheek size here. And let's bloat up her face. Poor girl. Bloat up her face a bit more. There we go. And probably extend those eyes. Nice and Japanese style. Big eyes. Move those eyes a bit to the center. And it's very flexible, really, isn't it? It's you can do whatever it is you like. Extend. Probably give her a monobrow. Thick one. There we are. Okay, I think we've done enough to the poor dog and for poor girl here. And what else can we do here that's fun? We can obviously we can clone things. We can clone, for example, the dog's eyes. At 100% opacity, make sure that you have your correct opacity there. Clone third-eyed dog there. What else could we do here? We can change your glove color. There we are. Just make a selection of the glove, then adjustments and hue and saturation, and just mess around with the hue. There you go, green gloves. Change the gloves here. And let's change her face. Now, the best way to change, when you're going to change the color of her face, is to go select and color range. And then we select the her forehead. With the plus symbol here, we're just going to click a bit more and make sure that we're getting just the subtle variations in color. And you can see that there are more things being selected here. The things in